Normal acute inflammation is very normal and we need it. Even when we ovulate, you need inflammation. So taking anti-inflammatory medication is not the answer.
We're living in this elevated level of inflammation.
What we know is that for every hour less of sleep you get, you're going to get fewer eggs with IVF cycle.
Wow.
I'm still shocked at one of the top questions I get asked is, can I work out if I'm trying to get pregnant? Pregnancy and having a newborn is full of ups and downs.
Yeah.
Really trying to build that foundation of your lean muscle mass as soon as you can and maintain it is going to be so key for your changing body, recovering, your resilience, fighting inflammation, having good metabolic health. And that impacts your pregnancy as well. Your gut microbiome is so important. We know that women who have infertility are more likely to have an abnormal gut microbiome.
You're listening to Be Well by Kelly LeVeque.
Dr. Natalie Crawford, I have been wanting to do this interview for, it feels like months, but welcome to SoCal.
Kelly, I'm so excited to be here with you.
It's necessary. I feel like with so many women struggling with infertility and with, your journey, my journey of pregnancy loss, it really does feel like we need more information to get pregnant, stay pregnant, and be the moms we want to be. So you're the expert here. I'm so happy you're here. Your new book, Fertility Formula, is available. I feel like you've been teasing it for a while because you've had all of this information in your head and sharing it on your podcast and on socials for so long, but now it's in this really usable book. So thank you for writing it. I know it's such an undertaking.
Oh, it is a labor of love to write a book. And you're right. The irony of promoting a book ahead of time is just the marketing world now. But for a fertility book to start being promoted 9 months before it's available is a wild world that we live in right now. And the irony was not lost on me. But this is just a passion of mine. After living it as a patient, dealing with patients every single day and sitting across from really educated women who would say, I wish I'd known this information sooner. I may have made a different decision. It really struck me that when is the right time for us to learn about our fertility, our cycles, how the world around us might influence either our success or may stand in the way of us getting to the goals that we want.
Yeah. Well, as someone who's struggled with it personally, what do you wish you knew prior to that journey?
Well, that is the whole book. But I really think what I wish I knew, because I sat across from doctors as a physician. I was an OBGYN when we started trying. Mm-hmm. And for people who don't know, I had 4 pregnancy losses before I had my 2 children. And I sat across from the table, had the workup done. And I said, what can I do? What can we do to make this not happen again? Mm-hmm. And I was told, nothing. There's nothing you can do. It's just bad luck. Just keep trying or do IVF. And those are the 2 options that were presented to me. And that felt so hopeless.
Yeah,
and
very binary. You're either, it's going to work or it's not.
Yes.
And it's not. And it's luck.
And so I started asking what I feel like are normal questions that as a woman, as a human, you start asking. Well, what about the foods I eat? Am I running too much? Are there other things that I should be doing that could change this? And I was told, no, none of that matters. Just keep trying. When you're ready for IVF, we'll do that and it will probably work. And that narrative really isn't true. Mm-hmm. Fertility is much more than luck. We can learn about our bodies. We can make active decisions. We can advocate for our health. I didn't sit across from that doctor advocating the way I should have because I didn't know any different. Mm-hmm. And then all the choices we make every single day can add up and they influence how our body is functioning. As you and I both know, metabolic and cellular health impacts our entire body, but especially how our ovaries work, our egg quality, and our ability to get pregnant. And to me, that's an empowering message that there is more that you can do, that this isn't just up to chance.
Yeah, we can't advocate for ourselves if we don't have the information of what we should even be advocating for. So starting from the very beginning, I want this podcast truly to be for the women out there who are struggling with fertility, who are having these same conversations across the table from doctors saying you could give it a couple more months, but when you're ready, we'll just get you pregnant with IVF.
Right.
What can we be doing now? You have your 5 pillars, your 5 non-negotiables. Can we go through those? How can we take the power back in our hands to advocate for ourselves?
Absolutely. And I think before we dive into them, which we'll get into really quickly, understanding just how your body is all connected is a really important principle. And I know you talk about this too, but in medicine on my side of the table, so often we segment our body in these systems. Got your ovaries, your brain, your heart. And the idea that, oh, your gut or insulin resistance is a separate idea than ovulation or getting pregnant is not true. So we have to think about all of these lifestyle pillars really point back to one thing, and that's going to be metabolic and cellular health and chronic inflammation. So chronic inflammation is when your immune system is constantly activated. So we all think about our immune system. If we get a cut on our hand, our immune system activates, comes in, works to heal it. Normal acute inflammation is very normal and we need it. Even when we ovulate, you need inflammation. And when an embryo implants, you need inflammation. So taking anti-inflammatory medication is not the answer. But what modern world has done is it's really changed the environment of our body because we're exposed to so much chronic inflammation. And these are different things. So the foods that we eat, the movement that we do or do not do, how much we sleep, the toxins in the world around us, and how we encounter stress that can elevate what I call the inflammatory burden, how much inflammation you're exposed to on a day-to-day. And that inflammation directly impacts your egg quality, how your brain can interpret and send out hormone signals, and therefore, if you ovulate, if you can get pregnant and you can stay pregnant. So it's wild, right?
Yeah. I just think about like this like foundational level of inflammation and like it going up when we need it to go up, like you're saying, when you ovulate or implantation, when you bump your knee, when you get a cut, like, yes, you want that inflammation. You want all those nutrients. You want all of that attention there, right? But you're basically saying that like this low level of foundational inflammation is no longer what we're living in. We're living in this like elevated level of inflammation where it's almost like, think of like a house foundation. Like if it's stable, we're good, we're standing on top of it. But if we're like sinking into a pool, like how can we hear the messages?
And then if it floods, the foundation's not stable. And that's really what happens is that our burden, our kind of baseline inflammation is so much higher. Then our body cannot react to the challenges that the world does face. Every single day, our body is challenged, and it's meant to send out your immune system, face that challenge, go back to baseline or that good foundation.
Right.
But when it's chronically challenged, it's not able to recover. You don't have the same resilience. And this insult adds up time and time and time again. And so that's where the 5 non-negotiables really come in as these principles that we can start to say, well, how can I control that? And how can I lower that inflammatory burden? And the goal is not really to get to 0 level. That's not realistic.
That's, impossible.
It is impossible. But we want to be at a place where we can face what's coming, knowing that we made the best decisions we could with the data we had, and living a life and a world that is so much less inflammatory, not to obsess over every tiny detail, but to be empowering, saying, okay, well, I'm doing what I can. And if we think about it, this is what's wildest to me. As somebody who does IVF every single day, I can only work with the eggs and sperm that somebody gives me. So of course, egg quality and sperm quality, both of which are directly correlated with chronic inflammation, meaning higher levels of inflammatory markers decrease your egg and sperm quality. And IVF can't overcome that. So even if you're later in the journey and you are doing fertility treatments or doing IVF, these foundational principles are still really important. So we should dive into them.
Yeah, we should. I will say, I've worked with women, most of the time when I'm starting with a client who's going through an IVF journey, they're really just concerned, like, I'm going to put on weight, I'm going to be puffy. Like, I want to make sure that you help me along this journey to make sure that the sort of the vanity piece, I'm like back to normal. But in reality, what I find when I'm working with a client and we're working on, blood sugar balance, good sleep, decreasing inflammation, that even ones that have had like multiple egg retrievals, we have better outcomes along the process. And it's just like they feel really empowered. It's not even about the vanity anymore.
No, they're living a different life. But what you just said is supported by data. In women who don't have PCOS, we can take them out of the picture because such a high proportion of PCOS women have insulin resistance. Looking at IVF outcomes, women who had fewer embryos develop had higher likelihood of having insulin resistance. And similarly, when it comes to recurrent pregnancy loss, if we take women who had recurrent pregnancy loss and those who did not, 27% of women who had recurrent pregnancy loss had insulin resistance compared to only 9% of those without. So the data is also showing us that medicine draws these cutoffs, right? Oh, this is diabetes or pre-diabetes, where things are more severe because it's based on population norms. But any amount of insulin resistance is causing chronic inflammation in your body and isn't how your body is supposed to function.
No.
And so when it comes to principles, I like to walk them through what I think is order of ability to change them. Meaning the very first thing that I say to all of my patients is sleep is first and foremost, because only 2/3 of adults are getting even 6 hours of sleep, right? That's not the recommended amount. We know that most adults are going to need 7 to 9 hours. And to be honest, women need about 7.5.
I would have an adult tantrum if I was getting less than 6 all the time. I mean, I've had
there've been
young
moments
children.
in time,
it's
of course.
It's absolute torture.
Tell you though, I used to wear almost a badge of honor. I only need 5 hours of sleep, right? This idea that we can function with less. And we really want to shift that mentality to not just surviving the day-to-day, but optimizing metabolic health inside our body.
Yeah.
So I like to think about sleep as when your body's going to heal that inflammation. It is your natural healing state when inflammatory markers can decrease. Melatonin, which is raises as we sleep, helps us go to sleep, is this potent antioxidant. Mm-hmm. We also know that the gonadotropin, so the hormones from the brain, FSH and LH that are released, and these are the hormones that control ovulation, estrogen, progesterone production. These are released in the early morning hours, but after a certain amount of sleep. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you're going to impact your ability to send out the hormones that directly control ovulation and hormone production. So sleep is so intertwined with your health. What we know is that for every hour less of sleep you get, you're going to get fewer eggs with IVF cycle.
Wow.
And circadian rhythm is so important because people, men or women, who have an increased variability in their sleep, so they're not getting the same set sleep pattern every single night, it takes them longer to get pregnant. They have a higher likelihood of infertility. So this isn't just me sitting across the table saying, you should get more sleep. But it's true that the data is out there showing that the single foundational principle of getting enough sleep, paying attention to your circadian rhythm, waking up and seeing the morning sunlight and going to bed and setting a good sleep environment directly can impact your hormones and your ability to get pregnant. So what do we do about that? A dark room, a cool room, a sound machine, a sleep mask, putting our electronics away from us. Mm-hmm. And if we sleep with a partner in the bed, it's a team sport.
Yeah.
How often do I see that, my female partners are doing everything by the book.
Yeah.
And yet, her partner's jumping in bed hours later or watching TV in the bed or on his phone. And sleep is a team process here. If you sleep in the same room with somebody, we really need to have hey, if our goal is to be as healthy as we can or to get pregnant, we need to do this together.
Here's the thing about New Year's resolutions. Nearly 80% fail by February. And that's not because people lack willpower, it's because they lack data. Real lasting change starts when you actually understand what's happening inside your body. Things like leptin resistance, thyroid dysfunction, chronic inflammation, and hormone imbalances, these hidden issues can derail even your best efforts before you realize what's going on. This year, my focus is building strength, supporting my metabolism, and protecting long-term health, so I can show up fully for my family, my work, and my body. And that's exactly why I choose Function. Function is the only health platform that gives you access to over 160 biomarkers. Everything from hormones and metabolism to heart health, inflammation, stress markers, and toxins. You can even add MRI and chest CT imaging, and it's all tracked in one secure place over time. This is the kind of comprehensive health data most people never get access to. When you stop guessing and start measuring, everything changes. So this year, don't rely on guesswork. Get your data, track what matters, and make resolutions based on your biology. Own your health for just $365 a year. That's $1 a day. Learn more and join using my link at www.functionhealth.com/BeWellByKelly and use the gift code BeWell25 for a $25 credit towards your membership. A new year means chances to invest in yourself and your cells. January doesn't have to be about reinventing yourself. For me, it's about taking care of the woman I already am and supporting my energy from the inside out. Because here's the truth. You can't out-train low energy. If you want to feel strong, clear, and vibrant long-term, it's more than motivation. It starts at the cellular level. That's why I added Mito Pure gummies to my daily routine. They're the first ever longevity gummies made with clinically proven urolithin A, a powerful compound that helps renew your mitochondria, your cells' powerhouses, so your body can make energy more efficiently. Think of it like charging your internal batteries every morning. Mito Pure is designed to support one of the key hallmarks of aging, mitochondrial decline. It's been shown to support cellular energy, muscle strength, and healthy aging, helping you stay active, capable, and vibrant for decades to come. I love that it's a gummy, no extra pills, just something I genuinely look forward to each day. It's like a sweet little dessert treat. I keep them right next to my coffee as part of my morning routine, or I'll snack on them in the afternoon or right after dinner. They're also vegan, sugar-free, non-GMO, and third-party certified, so you know you're getting a clean, science-backed formula. Longevity doesn't have to be complicated. It starts with one simple habit. So don't let another year go by feeling less than your best. If you're ready to support your energy from the inside out, try Mito Pure gummies today and start investing in your future self, one day at a time. Grab 30% off your first month of Mito Pure gummies at timeline.com/BeWell30. That's timeline.com/BeWell30. BEWELL30 while the offer lasts. I'm laughing because it's like a repetitive fight that Chris and I have, that I like find a YouTube playing with, at least we're not on AirPods anymore, but with like a headphone, and I'm like rip the phone, throw it across the room, 2 a.m. freak out.
I know.
But it's crazy. Like, he just spent years and years in junior high and high school going to sleep to sports radio on an actual radio and waking up to it in the morning. And I'm like, how did your parents let you do that?
It's so crazy.
But he's
men are just
so
built
much
different.
better.
Also, I mean,
he's wearing mouth tape now.
Yes.
He's got the Cozy Earth eye mask, which is one of my
That's
favorites.
my favorite one too.
It's so cozy.
It's the best one.
No pun intended. But I mean, these are doable. Like, that's what feels good. Do you have an Oura ring?
I do.
Okay. So I have an Oura ring too. And it's kind of amazing because it shows you exactly like what time at night is your best bedtime. And I have started to really notice over the last few years, if I am pushing past my like normal sleep window, I'm exhausted.
You feel it.
Yeah.
I don't drink alcohol anymore, and I liken getting low sleep hours to what it used to feel like to be hungover.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Usually you're not functioning at your full capacity. Your brain is not on. And it's one of those things that it's the first thing that we should prioritize. And yet it's what most of us let go because we're doing chores. We're trying to spend time with our partner. We have got work.
Yeah.
We're getting up early to do other things. And so that's very achievable, but it probably takes a little bit of behavior change.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to inspire. Now that you know this, it's easier to make actionable change when you understand that the data behind it is actually influencing the goal you're trying to achieve.
Right.
The second thing I like to say on the same metric is going to be how you move your body. And we're going to dive into some of the food because this is one of your passions here, talking about insulin resistance.
Yeah.
But when it comes to moving your body, I would like to give my analogy to your audience about one way that I want us to view movement, because we both grew up, at least I did, in an era of you moved your body to look a certain way and to be a certain size, and not thinking about how that impacted your metabolic health or how your body functioned or your hormones or your fertility. Your skeletal muscle, so building and using skeletal muscle, is one of the best ways that your body has to fight insulin resistance. And so you talk about insulin resistance all the time, but here's my analogy for it. Insulin's a hormone. I'm going to talk about all these different hormones. Insulin's job is to let glucose into the cell, right? So you eat food, glucose is released, and then insulin will be released from the pancreas, and insulin comes, allows the cell to open its door and get glucose in. Both glucose and insulin would then lower, waiting until your next meal. For a variety of different reasons, we are living with higher baseline glucose values, the ultra-processed foods that people are eating, the frequency of snacking, not getting enough sleep when your body's naturally going to heal from some of this, variety, chronic stress, all of this is causing there to be more glucose in your blood. But insulin resistance is because of this higher glucose, pancreas is sending out more insulin. And I like to think about if insulin's a salesman coming to knock on your door. If the
already love it.
If the salesman comes every single day, what are you going to start doing?
You just don't answer. You're like on the Ring camera, like, sorry, dude.
No way.
Chance.
No chance am I answering. And that's what's happening at the cell. It says, I am so sick of you coming around. I'm not going to answer the door. Well, your cell then is hungry. It's not getting the nutrients it needs.
Mhm.
Your body then starts to break down glucose stores from the liver.
Mhm.
More glucose is going out into the bloodstream.
Mhm.
And then insulin, or your salesman, is banging at the door for you to finally open the door and let glucose in.
Mhm.
So it takes more and more insulin to get the job done. Insulin's a growth hormone.
Mhm.
So it causes you to distribute more fat in that abdominal, visceral fat area because it's worried that you're starving.
Mhm.
It's also going to be extremely inflammatory as that fat is. So insulin shifts even how the ovaries are directly functioning, meaning higher insulin levels, less chance of ovulating,
Mhm.
and then causes localized inflammation in the ovary. All these bad words we don't like.
Yeah.
Well, building and using skeletal muscle is a great way to fight this because skeletal muscle has a transporter called GLUT4, and this is like giving glucose the key to the cell. No longer needs insulin.
Mhm.
So we don't need our salesman to come around. Glucose can just get inside. So if you build and you use that skeletal muscle, we're going to decrease some of those glucose levels, improve that insulin sensitivity or the cell's response. And when we start thinking about moving our body in this metric,
Yeah.
not just being a certain size or a certain weight or a certain aesthetic, but saying, I need to use that muscle and build it. And that's going to be one of the easiest things I can do. This means for every woman, picking up weights, using weights at least 3 times a week should be the core of what she does before she wants to get pregnant, when she's trying to get pregnant, when she is pregnant, and once she's cleared for activity after she's pregnant as well. And yet that's not at all what I was told when I was in my 20s.
No, I mean, I remember writing my pregnancy course, which was all about basically teaching women throughout their pregnancy how to balance blood sugar and looking at the old recommendations that were like, do not work out when you're pregnant. And to like come back from that to get to a place where you're like, no. Please work out when you're pregnant. Please hold on to your lean muscle mass. Don't stop. If the first like trimester is an absolute disaster with nausea and fatigue and all that, great. But like, how do we check back in at week 14, 15, 16 and say like, are these symptoms still here? And can I work through them? And can I bring like leafy greens back into my diet? Can I bring working out and lifting weights back into my routine? Like that, it's that key, I think, what ends up happening. And it's happened to me. And I've had 3 pregnancies that have resulted in a child. And I will say, like, when I look at Sebastian's pregnancy, like I was on a reformer the day I was supposed to give birth to him and was so like active and fat pouring, you know, and then you have like a young child, you're not sleeping, it's during COVID, I'm pregnant with the second, and it's like displaced from my house, like don't have a gym to lift heavy, you know, and it's such a different experience. And I will say, like, if you can check in with yourself right at that beginning of that second trimester and just start to like micro habits, bring those things back in, it's a game changer.
Well, Kelly, I'm still shocked at one of the top questions I get asked is, can I work out if I'm trying to get pregnant? Or the fertility doctors or OBGYNs who are out there telling patients, do not work out at all. Mm-hmm. And that message is not only wrong, but it's harmful. As you expressed, pregnancy and having a newborn is full of ups and downs.
Yeah.
Really trying to build that foundation of your lean muscle mass as soon as you can and maintain it is going to be so key for your changing body, recovering, your resilience. But as we just talked about right here, fighting inflammation, having good metabolic health. And that impacts your pregnancy as well, meaning your own cellular metabolic health impacts the health of your baby, because this is when epigenetic changes are so important, meaning your body influences genes that are turned on and turned off for your baby. So it's so crucial.
No pressure, moms.
No, there's not pressure. But the truth is, that's why when you cultivate a life of doing all the things that you can, you don't worry that you have terrible morning sickness, because you know this is a temporary moment and your body will bounce back from it, not in a negative bounce back way, but because you've built in the systems where you're going to be able to do so. And it doesn't feel like this compounding effect of, oh my gosh, well, I didn't work out for the 9 months I was trying, and now I'm so sick, and my doctor told me I can't do anything in pregnancy. And that's when we start to get into this cycle that's really hard to come out of.
Right. Okay, so we've got sleep, we've got working out, and now we have to get to the food.
We do have to get to the food. Before we get to food, real fast, I'm going to talk about stress really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I put these 3 together because they're often on the back burner, and I think we have to bring them front. Chronic stress is something that is so pervasive in the world. And if I sit across from you at the table and say, don't be stressed, that's so ineffective, not helpful, and belittling, to be honest, right? Instead, I want to say we want to think about the fact that we will encounter stress in our world, and we want to know how we're going to challenge that stress. Stress is a body's response to be able to keep you alive in a bad circumstance, right? The classic running from a bear analogy. If you see a bear, Kelly needs to run from the bear. So your body, when cortisol is released, automatically shifts into a mechanism to free up that glucose again from the liver, pour it into your bloodstream, have fuel and energy for you to run from the bear. In the olden days, when there was a bear, you would run from said bear. All that glucose would get used up by your muscles, and you would get back to baseline. Your cortisol would go back down. You used up that extra glucose. Whew, you survived the bear, all good. But we don't usually encounter bears as our main mechanism for stress today. It is chronic work, bad emails, bad news at the doctor, interpersonal interactions. And we often encounter them sitting at a table. And we cope with the exact opposite of what our body needs. Because what do we do when we're stressed? We stress, eat, right?
Yeah.
And so we stress, eat, doubling down on that glucose burden. And most people don't stress eat with broccoli. They stress eat with those dopamine rising ultra processed foods. The really easy things to try to make themselves feel better. So they're worsening that whole pathway we already talked about of insulin resistance and chronic inflammation. So yes, when it comes to stress, I want people to think about always say no and set boundaries where you can. There's obviously things that we can probably eliminate from our life, and we should do said things.
Yeah.
Number 2 is going to be build in every day some type of cortisol lowering moment, because your day will be stressful. The world is stressful. And this is where what works for you and me are probably really different. It can be morning coffee outside, feet in the grass, a walk, acupuncture, yoga, mindfulness, meditation, talking to friends, journaling. It's not a one size fits all, but it doesn't involve your phone or a computer. You're not doing it while you're on a work call. It's carving out a little bit of time for you to get that release. And I really challenge everybody to give themselves some of those minutes in the day. Then the third one, that's one of my favorites to talk about, is when you encounter that moment that you're stressed, you feel the anxiety, you feel the tension, the bad email, the bad work meeting. Instead of trying to lean on stress eating, think about going on a 5-minute walk or doing 10 squats in place. Understand your physiology, that if more glucose has just been poured into your bloodstream, use it. Use it with your muscle. That's going to help you recover from that event and fight against how your body might be now programmed in the modern world to worsen this inflammation.
The New Year's resolutions have everyone thinking about change, but for me, the focus is on something that really sticks: my kids' health. With so many children growing up on ultra-processed foods, I want to give my boys a strong nutritional foundation, and that's why I love Hiya. Unlike many kids' vitamins loaded with sugar and artificial additives, Hiya delivers clean, thoughtful nutrition, 12 organic fruits and veggies, plus 15 essential vitamins and minerals. And the best part? My boys actually love them. They even enjoyed decorating their bottles with the stickers that come with your first order. Hiya makes it easy too. You get a reusable bottle with your first order, and they send eco-friendly refills each month. And here's the game changer. Hiya's Kids Daily Greens plus Superfoods taste like chocolate milk, but packs 55 whole food sourced ingredients. Just mix it with milk or a non-dairy alternative, and your kids get a delicious drink that fuels their own growing bodies. We worked out a special deal for you. 50% off your first order at hiyahealth.com/Kelly. This isn't available on their regular site, so you have to go to hiyahealth.com/Kelly, spelled Kelly, and give your kids the nutrition they need to thrive. Minnow is a family lifestyle brand that embraces clean lines, simple details, and crisp seaside breezes, and now they're bringing the same timeless, playful, polished style into winter. Introducing Minnow's new Après Ski capsule collection. The art of winter layering, soft textures, thoughtful details, and knits designed to move from a day on the slopes to cozy fireside moments. Just like their swimwear, every piece is designed with comfort, performance, and longevity in mind. It's elevated, effortless, and made for the real family life, whether you're beachside in the summer or bundled up in the winter. If you're ready to elevate your family's style for ski days, snow days, and everything in between, you have to check out their new collection. Shop Minnow's new après-ski capsule collection at shopminnow.com and enter the code MEETMinnow15 at checkout to receive 15% off your first order. That's shopminnow.com, code MEETMinnow15 for 15% off. I have to double tap this conversation, this fact, because I don't think people really understand that stress causes your blood sugar to go up.
Correct.
And that is so key for me when working with clients and balancing blood sugar, is understanding all the things that are not food that elevate blood sugar.
Yes.
So what causes that cortisol, adrenaline spike that tells your liver, let's pour that stored glycogen, break it down into glucose, pour it into your bloodstream and cause that spike. I've seen it with people who are trying not to eat and drink venti coffees from Starbucks that are too, really extra caffeinated. Again, that's something that people crave when they're stressed. I'll just go get a coffee.
Yeah, it'll make it better.
It'll make it, not
but
just
it makes
the
it worse.
ultra-processed foods, like doubling down on the caffeine, which, my audience knows caffeine's my favorite drug.
Same.
But
the same thing with alcohol too. We see the same type of stress that we are imposing on our body.
Exactly. And so that is just it's so key for me for this audience and for everyone to understand that it is what we're not eating is also causing this change in blood sugar that's impacting metabolic health over time. So I think about the stress you're talking about. I think about added caffeine. And I also think about working out. And people used to say, oh, well, that's bad because if you're working out and lifting heavy and doing HIIT training, and then all of a sudden you have that adrenaline and cortisol and you have that spike in glucose in your bloodstream. But you have to realize with working out, as opposed to that stress where you're sitting at a table or stress from caffeine, you have hungry muscles that are lifting weights, you're moving your body, and there's a counterbalance to that spike in glucose that becomes like a hormetic effect in making your cells even more insulin sensitive. And so we have to push that to the side and say, let's say you're wearing a continuous glucose monitor, like levels, and you go work out first thing in the morning and you do a HIIT training and you see your blood sugar shoot up, or you do, so for some people with an infrared sauna, same thing. It's causing that low levels spike in blood sugar. And they're like, I should never do that. It's dysregulating my blood sugar. But the counterbalance happens so quickly in something like that, I like to separate that. But it's so important because so many people don't realize that stress impacts blood sugar.
Right. And they get the message from their doctor that it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Oh, stress doesn't cause medical problems or doesn't cause infertility, or just don't stress about being stressed. I hear patients say that all the time that they were told from somebody.
Yeah.
And I never want to sit here and say this one thing you did caused you to not get pregnant. And that's not the truth. There's no one thing that will cause or cure your infertility, but understanding how all these things are interwoven. And to your point, the social media narrative can be harmful sometimes, because if you're wearing a CGM and all you think about is glucose spikes are bad, your glucose is meant to spike at times, or your body is meant to function in a certain way. But it's understanding, is there a benefit from that too? Or is this just adding into the negative pile? And when it comes to chronic stress directly causing insulin resistance, that is something that patients are shocked when I tell them. But I do think it helps us make better decisions, because then we have the data.
Yeah.
And especially for women are brilliant. If you give them the information to make the choices they want to, ultimately, then you're the one making it.
Yeah.
Your fertility journey, your health journey is nothing but your own. So to be able to say, I'm not just doing things not knowing what's going to happen next, but making these from a place of knowledge, that's empowering. And if you say, today I'm going to stress eat the cake, that's fine. You know that. But the goal is not to do that every single day, and not to have that being what your constant is. We want to lower that burden.
The hardest part for me, or what I think about when it comes to this, everyone's always stressed. It's such a stressful world. And I'm using air quotes here because I think it's a narrative. yes, we are in constant contact with our work, colleagues through email and text and DM.
All the time.
And it's a fast world, so everyone's connected. And, you flew here from Austin to tape this podcast, and you have little kids, and you have a practice, and you have a podcast. But you seem very resilient, and you seem like you handle stress well. Like, do you think there's something about having a narrative around what your life requires of you, or what you tell yourself about the experience you're having? Like coming here today,
Yes.
Was it stressful or exciting? Like that, I think that there's something there too when we get in the habit of saying, oh, it's stressful. Because I've been there.
Right.
When I'm feeling chronically stressed, or like germs are passing through my house, and I'm feeling like slightly sick or fatigued, like I can't work out, or I'm not sleeping as well. And then all of a sudden, like taping a podcast, which would be like so fun and exciting, or multiple back to back, I'm like, oh no, it's like a really long podcast day. Like that's a different experience than being like, wow, I'm so grateful that I get to interview Dr. Natalie Crawford today, all about fertility, and help my community get pregnant. Like, for you personally, like you've built this mega career and awesome practice, and you wrote this book, like you're doing big things, but you don't seem stressed. Like how do you personally
I love
have
this
that
question.
resilience?
I'll say I have not always, right? Medical training is disastrous, for lack of a better word. 36-hour shifts. The hardest thing about this narrative that I think is so harmful is that it normalizes the idea that there's, a badge of honor from being busy, from the hustle, that you don't have to take care of yourself because it's normalized. We'll liken it to, other toxic behaviors that are so normalized that we then don't think that they're negatively impacting our body.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very controlling, Kelly. I'm a controlling person, but I know this about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And setting up my life so that I don't have to think about these little decisions, or is this going to make me stressed or too much? Prioritizing things that decrease my inflammation, knowing that I'm working towards the goal, which we have a lot of different goals and priorities at different moments.
Mm-hmm.
That helps me find that resilience. But a lot of it comes from your own health.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody who's had infertility or an autoimmune disease, gone through that, same, right? The process of trying to get to my celiac diagnosis, I did not have the same resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start to lose your health, you start to understand how that's the backbone of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that prioritizing you is not weakness, but it's power.
Mm-hmm.
That you can achieve more, you'll have more resilience, you'll be a better mom, I show up better to my patients, I can do more things because I now cultivate a life that helps me have less of that and handle the moments that I know will be stressful. I know when I get up at 4 a.m. and get on a flight, like that's not going to be my best day.
Yeah.
But I prioritize packing in advance, going to sleep earlier, setting things up so I'm not a crazy mess in the morning, going to bed earlier that next night, because my body can now handle these shifts. But you're right. And what I love about your question is that the mindset piece, it's not that mindset is everything, but mindset is something.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the positive of situations where we'll say, I'm, going to miss my son's basketball game while I'm here. Oh, that stinks. I love being present for his basketball game. But I get to sit across from you and have this conversation, and how many people may have one tidbit that they hear, that they change something that might positively impact their life. And that is so powerful and important to me. And, I FaceTime my son, my daughter will go and take some pictures, we'll recon from it afterward. And that you can still give your presence even if it isn't live and in the moment. And that these different priorities can all bring you joy. That we don't have to sit here and be stressed that I'm missing the game. I can say, I'm missing that for this opportunity. And I'll be at all the other ones, like with my hat on, cheering him on. And then that's a really great mindset versus just being frustrated or upset.
Yeah.
And that's hard though, especially when things are not going your way. But trying to find those silver linings is a really powerful thing our mind can do.
I love what you did there. You changed the narrative for yourself, which is like not to be, I'm a bad mom because I'm prioritizing my career right now, but understanding that like you're prioritizing your career right now because you're helping, it's part of your goal and your mission, which is to help women get pregnant. And that if you look at I'm sure your son's season across, however many months this basketball season is going to last, or if he plays year round, I don't know, but to really take inventory, that's been really helpful for me to change the narrative around like wanting to be 100% stay at home, homeschooling granola mom, and also wanting to be a powerhouse entrepreneur and launch multiple businesses, invest in other businesses and run this podcast and help my community. Like it's definitely like it pulls you in both directions, but even just.
And how lucky are we?
We're so lucky. And that gratitude, right?
Mm-hmm. How lucky are we that we have multiple passions at one time that get to sometimes be in conflict, and we have the opportunity to be powerful in both of them. And I'll say this because my kids are a little bit older. My son's 10. How proud he is of me is another wonderful part that comes out, right? Mommy, where are you going? Whose podcast is this? What else are you doing there? And, are they going to talk about the book? How proud they are of the book, my kids. That is something that you're also impacting and they understand I'm not always there. So I just think we're really lucky. We're lucky that there's an audience that wants to learn. We're lucky we live in a time where women care about their bodies, but that's a choice. And I struggled with it early in my career about not being that picture perfect mom and not being there at school drop off every day, and that my husband sometimes is, he's judging the science fair today.
Yeah.
I am not. Right. So
good job, Dad.
Good job, Dad. But that weighed on me. And I let that stress me out for a long time until I was able to really think about what my goals are and that it's okay to have multiple goals. And I'm lucky to have them and to be able to chase all these things.
Yeah. And you're impacting so many lives in your mission and your goals. So let's dive into how you can continue to help these women.
Let's talk about food. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. The gut, the whole show could be on this. So we'll try to be really concise, right? Because I know this is something you're so passionate and you cover a lot to yourself. I was a nutrition major in college. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
So all of my friends went on to be RDs and I went to medical school. But I've always been fascinated about nutrition and how it impacts what we put inside our body, how our body is going to function. And I was very classically one of these people who was floored in medical school by the nutrition curriculum. Right? The fact, this is what I majored in, right? I took an entire class on carbohydrates, an entire class on micronutrients. And so the fact that I got there and it was one lecture and so minimized in preventive care was shocking to me. You kind of, though, adjust in medical school. Residency is a cult, for lack of a better word. The learning curve is so high. And then going through my own infertility journey and bringing these questions back up, really found it to be not just fascinating, but really devastating how little we talk about nutrition when it comes to health. And luckily, we're living in an era where that is shifting. Thank goodness, because these are individual decisions that we make every day. Your doctor's not deciding what food you eat. It's no pill. This is all preventative health at its core is the decisions you make. So to start, let's just talk quickly about the gut, right? The gut is this incredible organ that your body has. It's an endocrine system, for lack of a better word. Your gut microbiome, which is the first line of defense, your gut against everything that you eat. Your gut microbiome metabolizes estrogen. It makes short-chain fatty acids, which directly talk to your brain and your hormones and directly control hormone function, in addition to being highly regulatory for the fight against inflammation. Double that down with the fact that your gut is a single layer of cells, right? And that the permeability, or how close together they are, or the junctions between them, this is influenced by when we eat inflammatory foods. And if we eat diets low in fiber, we'll start to get what's known as a leaky gut, where there's spaces directly letting those harmful inflammatory molecules into our body. This isn't even talking about composition of how nutritious food is for you and how that influences it, but just understanding that your gut is not just a passive system, that there is almost a filtration system, keeping bad things out and letting good things in, but then also a really active endocrine organ when it comes to your gut microbiome. Your gut microbiome is so important. We know that women who have infertility are more likely to have an abnormal gut microbiome than women who do not have infertility. So it's not just cool to talk about your microbiome. But thinking about the fact that gut dysbiosis or having an abnormal gut microbiome is going to influence your inflammation, therefore egg quality and hormone health is really important. So the number one thing we can do for our gut microbiome, as you talk about all the time, is eat fruits and vegetables that have lots of fiber. Fiber is the food for the microbiome. And so we want to be eating lots of different types of fruits and vegetables. They have a lot of phytonutrients for us, but they're also feeding that gut microbiome and keeping it in the right diversity that we need. On the other hand, our ultra-processed foods are lacking. Our animal meat is lacking. That doesn't mean that animal meat's inherently bad, but it does make us really concerned about carnivore diet when we're sitting here not getting any fruits and vegetables and only prioritizing foods that are low in fiber. So, if you and I were to redesign our food pyramid, we would have probably fruits and vegetables as the core that we need to be putting on our plate. And the fertility data supports this. So if you get at least 2 servings of fruits and vegetables at every meal, you're going to get pregnant faster and have lower rates of infertility. And we know that fruit gets a bad rap. I'm sure you deal with this every single day. But women who eat 3 servings of fruit or more in a single day have lower time to pregnancy, meaning their monthly rates of conceiving are higher. So let's discredit this, bananas are bad for you narrative. And fruits and vegetables have such great sources of fiber and other nutrients that can be really, really helpful for us. From there, it's really a diet that's prioritizing those whole foods. So we want to have, grains that are more complex over your refined processed grains. We want to have, when it comes to meat, if you consume meat, we want, fish and eggs to be the priority. Any serving of meat you have, chicken goes into this group, decreases your chance of ovulation, and replacing that with vegetable proteins or plant-based proteins over animal-based proteins improves ovulatory rates and fertility. And that's well studied in the fertility data. Red meat, and of course, as you know, nutritional data is really nuanced because what we tend to do is say, how much meat does everybody eat? And then we put it into quartiles. So the group that eats the lowest and the group that eats the highest. And, hot dogs and grass-fed beef are in the same category here. And highest quartile of red meat consumption versus the lowest had poor embryo development, had fewer embryos with IVF, had lower pregnancy rates, and had worsening stage of endometriosis. We also see worse sperm counts. So that's nuanced to understand.
Yeah, I think that that is hard for me only because when I look at let's say a grass-fed, ancestral blend from Force of Nature
100%.
that comes with CoQ10, it comes with vitamin D, it comes with all your methylated B vitamins, ounce for ounce, it is the highest micro and vitamin nutrient per ounce, So I get, I worry that people listening are going to be like, oh no, I should not be eating any red meat to get pregnant. When in reality, I've seen multiple NutriVals where we look at someone's nutrient density in their body and they have low B vitamins or they have low vitamin D or they aren't able to balance blood sugar because they're snacking so much because they're never fully satisfied. Yeah.
Here's what I think. I think red meat is the most nuanced. And what I want to say is that quality matters here more than anything.
Yeah.
Yet most studies are not qualitative in that method.
No.
Right? They're not comparing your different types of red meat. They're putting them all together.
Yeah.
And so that is the stuff where we say we use the data that exists.
Yeah.
To make the best decisions that we can.
Totally.
Understanding that not all things are created equal. Do we need red meat in our diet every single day? We probably don't, right?
Yeah.
And, substituting, we know when it comes to animal-based meat, fish is the most advantageous for us.
Yeah.
So thinking about how we balance that and having a balanced approach is important. But I also fear that when people see red meat, they equate it to, a juicy grass-fed steak like you're talking about is not the same as very
hot dog.
Right, a hot dog.
Yeah.
It's true though, right?
Yeah.
And yet they are all grouped together in studies. So I think people though can understand that if we explain it to them.
Yeah.
And what we also know is I grew up standard American diet girl, meaning meat was the star of the plate with a potato.
Yeah.
There wasn't any vegetable to be had.
Yeah.
And what I see with my patients is by telling them to drop this a little in the transition, it is the number one way to get more vegetables on the plate. And vegetable-based protein sources, beans, lentils, have immense nutritional value as well that a lot of people don't consume at all.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's interesting when I have clients do food journals and write down like what they're eating, and they're like, oh yeah, I eat fruits and vegetables. And I'm like, great. So just like write some things down for me for 10 days. And then they're like, oh, I guess I didn't have any with breakfast. I just had a couple hard-boiled eggs. Or like, oh, I guess I just had a yogurt. Oh, I guess like you don't really, if it's not measured and it's not tracked, it's not measured. And if it's not measured, it can't be changed. And so then there's like really no understanding of like what people are eating. I'm 100% a huge advocate, obviously, of fiber and greens on a plate. And I'm grateful that I feel like there was, and maybe it's still surging with certain communities, but I feel like that carnivore thing happened real fast and hard and heavy. And then I was like, wait, what's happening?
No.
Like, we still need all of these plant foods for that microbiome you're talking about. And I mean, we intimately know this with celiac disease and autoimmunity and leaky gut and zonulin and like all the things that, like, if your microbes don't have mucus, they don't have fiber, they're eating your mucus. And if they're eating your mucus layer, then they're getting to your epithelial lining. If they're getting to your epithelial lining, guess what's happening next? Everything that you eat is in your body. So it's a problem, obviously. But I mean, even fish, for example, for pregnancy, people would say like, don't eat it because of like heavy metals and mercury and all this. And it's like all the data points to better omega-3 values, having better even like IQ outcomes of your child in utero. Like,
for sure. Omega-3 fatty acids are extremely important in brain development of your fetus. Off subject. Even when I was in college, we did a rat study feeding some child that had omega-3 fatty acids and others that didn't. And their offspring came out better with the rat test and ringing the bell and doing all the things. Like, it's that important. And I mean, that was 20 years ago, doing this research. So I think what we really are trying to prioritize, and it's the same, it's real foods. I guess the last thing we should say is that when it comes to dairy, all of the fertility and hormonal data supports that full-fat dairy is better than low-fat dairy when it comes to the processing and what's getting added in. Dairy doesn't have to be at every meal all the time. It does have some nutritional benefits, of course, but it's one of the things that quality it can. So I think when it comes to fruits and vegetables, the nice thing about them, all of them, eat them all, eat any of them, anything you can grab. There's no, quote, quality metrics when it comes to fruits and veggies. But when it comes to, your meat and dairy and grains, the quality of what you're choosing to consume matters a lot. And we really want things that are less processed and things that are more real and a balanced plate. Meaning, even though it might be a good weight loss strategy, eating the exact same thing every single day is not a good balanced dietary approach when it comes to trying to have all the nutrients that you need and having a diverse gut microbiome.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I feel like I could talk to you for a whole nother hour. So we have stress, we have sleep, we have movement, we have nutrition. I don't want to miss out on all the good stuff that's in your new book, Fertility Formula, because obviously you talk about ovarian reserve and you talk about egg quality and people knowing their cycle literacy. Like, that's a huge part of getting pregnant. But the cool part is what you've just given the audience is everything that they can do, no matter whether they are thinking about getting pregnant in 6 months, actively trying, being pregnant, or going to IVF.
I mean, no matter where you are, your hormonal health, especially as a woman, impacts your day-to-day function. And so understanding how you can, not obsess over these, but set the stage that this is your day-to-day decision. And the last one we should say of those principles is going to be toxins that are in your world. And of course, there's toxins such as smoking cigarettes, cannabis use, alcohol use that are behavioral toxins. All of those impact your fertility in a negative way. When it comes to toxins in the world, like endocrine disrupting chemicals, right? Plastic bottles, they need to go. I know we've got our nice glass one here.
Cheers to Lunan.
Cheers. And really, thinking about the things in our kitchen, the nonstick cookware, the water quality, making sure it's, nice filtered water, doesn't have any pollutants in it. I walk through in the book that too, because that's another you thing that you can start to control. And you don't have to make all those changes at once, but starting to think about, how do I drop that inflammatory burden down? But you're right, there's a lot more to think about when it comes to how your ovary really functions that ties into all of these principles, and especially egg quality as well. Well,
can you give us the 101 on cycle literacy and sort of like the hormones that are coming into play during that cycle and what people should start to track?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So when it comes to your cycle, here is my really quick description of it. I want you to imagine that inside your ovary, all your eggs are kept inside a vault. So you're born with all the eggs you're ever going to have. Eggs come out of the vault all the time. Eventually, the vault will be empty.
Yeah.
Your reproductive years, you have a group of eggs coming out of the vault, and each egg grows inside a small structure called a follicle. And a follicle can be visible on ultrasound. Well, the brain is going to send out follicle-stimulating hormone, or FSH. FSH is what causes an egg or a follicle to grow. So follicle gets bigger, egg matures, egg makes estrogen. That estrogen makes you feel good, feeds your receptors all over your body, grows that lining of the uterus, the endometrium. And this is considered the follicular phase, or the first part of your cycle, from when you start bleeding, your period, until when you ovulate. Egg is growing. It's an estrogen dominant phase, meaning there's no progesterone, and your estrogen rises throughout it. When estrogen gets to those peak levels, it's actually 200 picograms per ml for 50 hours. Like, the body's fascinating.
Okay.
That's so specific.
Yeah.
Then the brain says, we have a mature egg, and sends out a signal of LH. An important concept for the whole body is that hormones are communication system, like text messages going back and forth. Your brain doesn't really see what's happening in the ovary. It doesn't actually know that an egg is growing. It's waiting to get the text signal back that estrogen is high enough.
Yeah.
When estrogen is that high, it's going to send out a surge of a hormone called LH, or luteinizing hormone.
And that's what you pee on ovulation.
And that's what you pee on ovulation stick. Exactly. LH causes that follicle to rupture, the egg to be released, and then to reform and become a corpus luteum. So that is ovulation. After the egg is released, it has 24 hours to be fertilized, or it'll be through. It's done in that wild.
You mean it's not like Catholic school? I can't get pregnant every day of the
month? It is wild.
Just double checking.
I know, just 24 hours. And the egg, though, that follicle that grew the egg, reforms and becomes the corpus luteum. So the exact same follicle now is a cyst that makes progesterone. And the brain sends out LH impulses. That corpus luteum responds by making progesterone impulses, and then it can only live for about 2 weeks. If you get pregnant, that pregnancy is going to start to implant and make a hormone called HCG, what you pee on for a pregnancy test. HCG and LH have the same receptor. So HCG can come in and bind and keep that corpus luteum alive. But if you're not pregnant, then it only can live for 2 weeks. It dies, progesterone drops, and then you're going to get a period. Okay.
I love progesterone.
Oh, I know. There's a beautifully connected system here, and your body really needs both of these hormones to feel your best and to function normally. Big idea I want women to understand. Number one is that you can have stages of ovulatory dysfunction that can look really different. Meaning, if this is having a regular period and the other end of the spectrum is having no period, between there, your body goes through some distinct changes. So your luteal phase will start to shorten. That's the first stage of ovulatory dysfunction. Then the next stage is having a long or a short follicular phase. It starts to vary. Then you get to skipping cycles or true irregular periods, and then what we call amenorrhea, or absence of a period. But in all these first stages, just having a short follicular phase or short luteal phase or a long follicular phase, if all you are doing is marking down the day you start your period, the day you start bleeding in an app or on a calendar, you are not really tracking ovulation, and you can miss those early stages of ovulatory dysfunction, which is your body giving you a red flag that something is wrong. And we'd much rather catch it in these early stages versus when things get really abnormal. And that recommendation is even stronger if you're trying to get pregnant or you want to be pregnant soon. So,
So if you're tracking in an app, so I use Natural Cycles with my Aura Ring.
Natural Cycles doesn't count because they're doing a method of fertility awareness. They're doing a basal body temp. But for this discussion, real quick, if you're just using an app that is a calendar method based app, they are using the assumption that your luteal phase is definitely 14 days. Telling you when you ovulate based on that. And only getting it right 20% of the time.
Not the case.
Right. So that's not accurate. Yet that's what majority of people do. So to your point, I really want to leverage people to use what we call the fertility awareness signs their body is giving them. That LH surge, the cervical mucus from high estrogen.
Egg whites.
Exactly. Or their body temperature rise from progesterone. And that's what Natural Cycles with the Aura Ring does, which I'm a medical advisor. I love it because it is a game changer. When I started as a fertility doctor, I told people not to check their BBT. Because I did it when I was trying to get pregnant, and it was
driving me crazy.
It's so difficult to catch it, or it was, and there was graph paper, and you're manually doing it.
And you're like, don't be stressed about that.
Yeah.
Just keep graphing.
Right. And already disclosed, I'm pretty controlling. So that was not a pathway to success for me.
Yeah.
But natural cycles, especially with the wearable technology, has changed the game because you're able to more sensitively and accurately detect these changes and make it user-friendly. So apps that are using your body's signs are what we're trying to get people to do. And so there's also those urinary-based hormone measurements. So there's the ovulation kits. There's many others that interact with apps as well that give more hormone measurements. But what you're looking at is, when do you have that LH surge? Because ovulation is the next day.
Yeah.
Or, as your point, the high estrogen levels change the cervical mucus.
Yeah.
And this comes out of your body. If you start paying attention, you'll notice it. And when it's sticky, stretchy like an egg white, that's called your type 4 cervical mucus. And the last day of that is considered your ovulation day. So if you just have one day, that's your ovulation day. But if you have a couple days, it would be the last day of that. And so starting to track, when are you actually ovulating, and how long is your follicular phase, and how long is your luteal phase? And your cycle should be pretty regular and predictable, meaning, Kelly, if I give you a calendar and I say, when's your next period going to come?
Yeah.
You should be able to put your finger on it and be only a day or two off. It shouldn't be something that you're a week off from predicting. That's what I call irregularly regular, meaning it appears to be regular, but it's not actually optimal. And there's a lot of different hormonal factors why that might be the case that we could start investigating.
So fascinating. So when you see these, looking like regular, but they're actually irregular periods, do you start by manipulating hormones with estrogen or progesterone creams or things like that?
If we're trying to get pregnant, we always want to see, is there a cause for why? So some of the top causes could be thyroid abnormalities, especially autoimmune thyroid disease, high prolactin levels, which is a hormone from the pituitary gland.
Yeah. Is that normally from benign tumors? And
That is one of the top physiologic reasons why.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why prolactin can be high from behavioral things, whether it's, so we see like ADHD medications can cause it to be high, or other psychiatric medications.
Okay.
Exercise, eating food, nipple stimulation, all of that can elevate prolactin. So the best time to check prolactin is going to be fasting in the early follicular phase when you have not exercised or had sex that day.
Okay.
So that's going to be the best time. Many times we will just screen it randomly in somebody.
Yeah.
And then if it comes back elevated, we bring them back in to draw that fasting follicular level.
Got it.
And then you're right. If it is still elevated, then we want to do a brain MRI to see if they have what's called a prolactinoma, which is that benign pituitary tumor that is making excess prolactin.
Okay.
I love that.
Off topic, but I mean, I feel like I've had at least 3 clients that have had elevated prolactin levels going through IVF and then found out that that was why. And so I was like, why is this so not popular? But it felt common to me in the moment.
It is on the list of things you should check for with any period that is not perfect.
Yeah.
Because it is common enough in that group of women, which is probably actually a lot of your clients who are having subtle ovulatory issues as well, or having infertility. And then your ovarian reserve, because having either a high or a low ovarian reserve starts to impact how the brain and the ovary are communicating. And this can start to present with subtle changes. One of the first signs you may see if you're starting to have a lower ovarian reserve.
Is that AMH?
That's your AMH, is having a shorter cycle.
Yeah.
So to tangent into what is AMH, what is ovarian reserve?
Yeah.
When we could go back to how your body's working, we think about that vault.
Yeah.
Inside the vault are all the eggs you're ever going to have. And we're all born with a different number, and we all lose eggs at a different rate.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is that the eggs that are sent out of the vault are a reflection of how many remain. Meaning when the vault is more crowded and you have more eggs, more come out every month.
Yeah.
And as the vault starts to get emptier and have fewer eggs, fewer come out every month.
Okay.
So we can measure the eggs that are outside the vault, and this is what we call test of ovarian reserve, or we use it as a surrogate marker for how many are remaining.
Okay.
The way we do that is either an ultrasound measurement, we just count the follicles. That's called an AFC, antral follicle count, and or we do an AMH blood test. AMH is made from the cells that surround all the follicles. So real simply, more inside or come out, more cells, higher AMH. Opposite holds true as well. So when we do an AMH test, we're trying to figure out, I like to think about it like a category. Are you average, above average, below average, critically low?
Right.
But if we put this in a real simple way, if we say you're 30, the average 30-year-old would have about 20 eggs coming out of the vault.
Yeah.
That would be normal. So normally she would ovulate 1, and then 19 would die. And then the next month would have another group of around 20-ish eggs.
Yeah.
The body's not perfect, so it's not always going to hit right on there.
Right.
Well, having low ovarian reserve might mean that she has 10 eggs outside the ball.
Yeah.
So she's losing 9, she's having 10. She's still just ovulating 1.
Yeah.
So at face value, somebody with a low AMH can absolutely still get pregnant, and your month-to-month rates of conceiving might be similar depending on other factors for your health. Because if we have 2 30-year-olds, we're both ovulating 1 egg at a time.
Yeah.
Kind of same.
Both get one chance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the bigger question here is, but why does this person have a low AMH? Because a lot of the things that contribute to having lower ovarian reserve absolutely contribute to infertility, meaning endometriosis, autoimmune disease, insulin resistance. A lot of these things contribute to your egg count being low, and they also make it harder to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Right? Smoking cigarettes is another one. So there's both toxins, there's things we can't control, things we can, but it warrants the evaluation versus what often happens right now is women may get a low AMH and they're just told, oh, it's low. Maybe you should do IVF or try to get pregnant now.
We should retrieve some eggs. Store them in a freezer.
Store them without really giving women the information they need about what that does mean. Or there's this simplified narrative of having a low AMH doesn't mean it impacts your natural fertility because you are ovulating that 1 egg. So therefore you don't need to worry about it. When we do know we deserve an investigation for why it's low, that absolutely may impact our fertility. It might impact your family size and when you go into menopause.
Yeah.
Right? By definition, having low ovarian reserve, especially when it's what we call diminished ovarian reserve or an AMH less than 1, that's perimenopause.
Yeah.
And so I see fertility patients who have very low AMH who then are shocked when maybe they're done with fertility treatment or they have their baby, that they're fluid perimenopause. They're feeling terrible. Yet we knew this is what was going to happen based on how many eggs they had remaining.
Yeah.
So it's a really important discussion to be had. I'll say that in the book, I talk about this. Right now, the medical recommendation is not to check an AMH if you are not actively having infertility. And I think that is wild and wrong.
Yeah.
Because if we can explain all these different pieces of it, but I say, if you're 25 and you find out your AMH is low, I think you, Kelly, deserve the opportunity to decide what you want to do with that information.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe we'll investigate and find out you have Hashimoto's disease.
Yeah.
Maybe you will freeze eggs. Maybe you've been married for a few years and you were waiting till you were 30, but you might start trying now.
Yeah.
Maybe you get off your contraception and start tracking your cycle so at least you can see what's happening there. Maybe you start really paying attention to the other things that impact our egg quality and our ovulation because you can't control that factor.
Yeah.
And I think that decision should belong to women because when it comes to fertility, I don't like this narrative that you have to fail first. You have to prove that you have infertility before we'll do testing for any basic factors or really give you a game plan for what we should do about that. So despite that being the medical recommendation, I'm in opposition to that.
Yeah.
I also don't love you have to try for 12 months before you can get testing. I think you can try for 12 months, but after 12 months, we know that something is wrong. But it's absolutely appropriate to get testing earlier, to be more proactive, to have a semen analysis, an ultrasound done, some of these hormone tests. In a world where infertility rates are rising, why are we making women fail first before we even let them qualify for testing? I think it's wild.
Yeah, we shouldn't be gatekeeping our own like our own
health
data. Yeah, it's wild. And you see, obviously companies like Function Health making functional medicine available to someone through the click of, I want to call it a mouse. People aren't using mouses anymore. But like a click of a button, you all of a sudden have control over your own health and you don't have to spend a couple $1,000s to sit with a physician. And I know that scares, the medical community, but I really, really appreciate you advocating for health and the health of women because you've probably had hundreds, if not thousands of women crying in your office about failing first. And I think information is power. And like I said earlier, like if we're not like tracking something and measuring something, like how can we get in the driver's seat of our own health?
Absolutely. You can't make decisions on data you don't know. And I do not believe my role as a physician is to be the gatekeeper of you understanding how your body is working. Does it make sense?
So refreshing. So ending on that note, what blood markers or labs do you think, or, ultrasound or whatever it is, what do you think would put someone who thinks they might be dealing with infertility back in the driver's seat? What labs or markers should they be running proactively?
I love that. And let me give one more description on this AMH narrative, because yes, I do think if you would like to have children one day, whether you're trying now, have infertility, or just in the future, I think you should get your AMH checked, because it should be your decision, as we said.
Right.
Now, AMH is measuring quantity of your eggs and not necessarily the quality of them. So I want to just give a couple sentences about egg quality to refresh this out. Your egg quality is both the genetic normalcy, if your chromosomes are in the right position, but also the mitochondrial metabolic health of your eggs. Because the mitochondria from the eggs, they're in their highest density there. Those mitochondria get exclusively passed on to the embryo. The egg controls fertilization, controls early embryo growth. The male genome doesn't even kick in until day 3 of that embryo growth, right? We don't even need them till later, even though sperm health is important. So this is a really important topic, because chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, that impacts mitochondrial health, creates, reactive oxygen species right there in your egg. That also damages your chromosomes inside your egg too. So we get a chronic hit from that inflammation when it comes to our egg quality, especially over time. Because if your eggs are inside your body your whole life, they do absorb some wear and tear. Chromosomes start to move around a little bit in everybody. We can't reverse all of that.
Right.
The other truth is that people get more metabolically unhealthy as we get older also. So we really see this double hit from your whole body health if you are not in a state of optimal health, if we're not fighting against this inflammation and fighting against this insulin resistance. So the idea that your fertility is just your age, that's the only thing that matters, or that age is equal to egg quality, that's not the full story either, right? We've got metabolic health and genetic health. Yes, you can't turn back the clock. Geez, then the metabolic health is even more important here. So if I were to say, what do I think you should get tested, or how do you advocate for yourself? AMH blood test, for sure. I also, in my patients, I like to check for markers of insulin resistance. So a fasting insulin is my favorite. Hemoglobin A1C can also be advantageous when it comes to treatment strategies. Vitamin D level, check to see if we're anemic. And if we are, definitely looking for, nutritional deficiencies that can go along with that. Did I say thyroid? If not, thyroid here. And I'm a proponent. You should minimally get your TSH for screening. But if you have anything else going on, a family history of thyroid disease, of autoimmune disease, recurrent pregnancy loss, unexplained infertility, we need a full thyroid panel with antibodies as well, because it is so prevalent, especially in that population.
Right.
Irregular cycles at all, we want to add in a prolactin and look at some of your androgen levels, like your testosterone, to try to make sure that we know everything that is happening. And this is just some of those hormonal markers across the board. There's nuance here, of course there is. And one of the things I love about being a physician is getting to sit across from a patient, hear their story. I can only make decisions off also what you give me, right? So thinking about, if you are the patient, going in and knowing what's been happening, how your cycles have been, if things have been bothering you, when things changed, what your baseline is and what has changed from that is really important. But I will order other things, high sensitivity CRP, if we have symptoms of chronic inflammation. So there's always personalizing it based on what one individual might be saying. And I'll say one of the beautiful things, in my opinion, of a lot of the direct-to-consumer options like Function is it's casting a big net. Right. So it's casting a big net to not miss things. When somebody comes in and they upload their Function, I love it. I've got more data to make decisions with. I am not one of those physicians who's going to roll my eyes and, get really annoyed that you advocated for your own health. When we're sitting across, we are trying to use your healthcare dollars to the best of their ability. So we're trying to make calculated decisions, but your fertility is a marker of your whole body health. Having infertility puts you at risk for metabolic disease, cancer, stroke, heart attack later in life. And it is not the infertility that caused that. It is the metabolic state that contributed to your infertility that also contributes to these other things. So by having infertility, your body is giving me a red flag warning sign that it is not functioning normally. And I believe we should investigate that to the best of our ability. That doesn't mean we might never need IVF. Right? IVF is an amazing technology. It's helped 17 million babies be born. That's incredible. But it also means even if you're doing IVF, we can't ignore this metabolic health piece of the puzzle. And if you sit across from the table and say, I want to do everything I can to optimize my chance of success, understanding your body, advocating for your health, and making those decisions where you can to lower your inflammatory burden, that is doing the best that you can.
Such a beautiful way to look at it, like truly a vital sign for your future health.
Yes.
And also your little red flag to get back on track and to figure out what's going on, because you're going to feel so much better.
I know. You will. You won't go back. You're going to make changes and you're going to feel better. And you and I both know this.
Yeah.
Once you decrease that insulin resistance, you're going to wonder how you functioned before.
Dr. Natalie Crawford, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your wisdom, for writing this wonderful book, Fertility Formula. It's available. It's finally here 9 months later.
Yay.
It's like your third baby.
I know. It really is. This is my third baby.
Oh, I really appreciate you being here. Where can people follow along? Where can they learn more? Where can they snag the book?
Yes, you can get the book anywhere books are bought. I'm at Natalie Crawford MD on Instagram, and the website is nataliecrawfordmd.com/book, has the links to all the places, but I'm so excited to get it in everybody's hands.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Be Well by Kelly LeVeque podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review in your favorite podcast app and subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. We're also excited to share that full-length video episodes are now on YouTube and Spotify, so you can watch along as you listen. The best way to support me and the show is by sharing it with your friends and family. Your recommendations make all the difference. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson. The video is recorded by Luke Rodriguez and edited by Jesse Trout. See you next time.
The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical or mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or healthcare team first. Shout out to the Newport Beach Pendry for hosting us. I'm so grateful to record in such a beautiful space that truly elevates the podcast experience for myself and my guests. From the stunning design to their incredible hospitality, it's a perfect setting for meaningful conversations and creative energy. Hey, thanks, Pendry.